What's up, guys? Welcome back to Veteran Aquatics, and today we're going to talk about the different types of algae that you get in your aquarium and how to get rid of it. But before we go ahead and get started, make sure to hit that like button and click subscribe. I'll see you in just a second. Alright, so the types of algae we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the brown algae. This is the most common type, the type that you see growing on the sides of your aquariums or maybe on the back or the front glass. You usually have to scrape it off. We'll talk about algae in the water column, which is what the problem was with this tank. I've blacked it out. It's taken care of. We'll also talk about hair algae. We'll talk about blue-green algae, and we'll talk about blackbeard algae. Alright? So we're going to start with the regular old brown algae. So this is what the brown algae looks like. It looks worse than it is because of the green background, but it scrapes off really easy, and honestly, that's the easiest way to get rid of it. So scrape it off, do a good gravel vacuum. Most algae is caused by an imbalance between lighting and nutrients. So this is my Jaguar cichlid tank. So there's no live plants in here. These guys will tear them up, they'll dig them up. But as you can see, there is a ton of algae in here. That's my fault. That's because I leave the lights on too much. So to get rid of this, I would just have to decrease the lighting a bit, make sure I do better gravel vacuums, and maybe bigger water changes. That should take care of it. You're never really going to get rid of algae entirely. It's almost impossible, and every aquarium's going to have it. But the easiest way to combat something like this is just to, keep up on your water changes, maybe you're overfeeding, and decrease the lighting in the tank. So you guys will remember this tank from one of my more recent videos. This is my CPD, or Celestial Pearl Danio tank. This tank was a victim of blue-green algae. Now, it's all gone, but what it looked like was a really bluish-green film that covered some of the bigger plant leaves. And it looked hideous. It killed the leaves off because what it does is it actually absorbs the nutrients from the lighting before the plant can, and because of that, the plant eventually dies. So this was Java fern, but it's just got the base or the rhizome left, and that's because the blue-green algae killed it off. So to get rid of that, it's usually, again, an imbalance of some kind of nutrients. Blue-green algae, sometimes it's iron. There's too much iron in the water. So you can check that out. You can test for that. Maybe you need to fertilize your plants more. Maybe you need to cut down on your lighting. And this one in particular is caused by not doing enough gravel vacuums and getting rid of that detritus that builds up, that leftover food and fish waste. And that's going to be the cause of most of your algae. It's going to be too much fish waste. It's going to be overfeeding, too much lighting, not enough water changes. Sometimes it's something else, and you guys will remember this tank, which just a couple days ago was bright green. So the bright green is algae suspended in the water column. Alright, so that comes again from overfeeding, too much light, and not enough gravel vacuums. So what happens is that the tank water turns green because there's algae suspended in the water column. It's because there's an imbalance in lighting usually. So I have a couple of plants in here. These are the Stomatopea mariae, those Crater Lake African cichlids. They're Cares fish. But there's not many plants in here. And I had plants in here before I put the fish in, and I just kind of left them in here. They haven't really bugged them too much. So the plants are doing okay. That said, I got rid of it by blacking the tank out for 3 days. Once that was done, I did a huge water change. I actually did that today, and the tank cleared up really nicely. To avoid it in the future, I have to be kind of careful of lighting. So natural lighting is going to be a big problem. So you'll see this is my 90 gallon, this is my angelfish tank. I have a rosaline shark back there. There's a window right there, and there's a window right there. Now those shades aren't bad, but they do not stop all the natural light. You can see kind of some of the remnants of that brown algae. That's getting caused One, by the light I'm using because it's a grow light, and two, because this tank actually gets natural sunlight even with the lights off. So even if I leave the lights completely off, this tank still gets some form of, natural sunlight. And if you have a tank near a window, if it's in front of a window, if there's a window across from it, you can definitely expect, to get more algae than normal, just because your tank's always going to get that natural light. So another type of algae you'll get, and I've been a victim of it as well, is hair algae. It's just long, thin tendrils of algae growing up off of your decor, off of your plants. And if you pull the decor out, it's going to look like, you just took a shower and your hair is all floppy and wet. That's why they call it hair algae. For that, scrape it off. Again, same thing, guys. When it comes to algae, it's going to be pretty much the same things. It's going to be too much food, not clean enough water, too much light. Okay, sometimes it can be easily fixed by blacking the tank out after you scrape off the algae or do water changes. Sometimes you can use chemicals to treat it. I don't like using chemicals in my tanks. I try to use things that are natural. Things like for treating ick, I'll use aquarium salt and I'll jack the temperature up in the tank to 83 degrees, right? Because I'm not using chemicals. I don't like using chemicals in my fish tanks. I want my fish to live in as chemical-free environment as I can, if that makes sense. So I don't use chemicals, but there are things that will kill algae. Be aware though that they may kill plants. You can get something called liquid carbon, but things like Vallisneria are really, really sensitive to it. So you can end up killing your plants. Something else that you can do, like if you have a really nicely planted tank and you're noticing algae growing all over it, you can get things like ostentatious catfish or autosynclus. There we go, autosynclus catfish. They love algae, they'll eat it. American flagfish will eat it, mollies will eat it, things like that. For the brown algae, you can get, like a pleco will take care of that. And I'm not getting any fish right now, one because I'm moving, though I've said that and acquired new fish, but mostly because of the shutdown, so I really can't and I don't want to go out. She's almost 3 now, I have a little girl here, and I don't want to get my daughter sick. She's the one that has suffered most from it, so I'm not going to risk it just for my hobby. But things like that will take care of the algae. Mollies especially are really good on hair algae, so are flagfish. Autosynclus cats will get the stuff off the walls, so will plecos. If you don't know, don't get a common pleco unless you have a huge tank. They get enormous. If you have a smaller tank, something like a 55 gallon, 30 gallon, 20 gallon, stick with a bristlenose. Maybe you could get a rubber lip pleco. They stay a little smaller as well. But they'll do a good job, cleaning up. But autosynclus cats are probably one of the best ones. Chinese, Siamese algae eaters are also very good without eating the hair algae and the brown algae. Most things won't eat the blue-green algae. You can also look to snails for a cleanup crew. So you can get things like nerite snails do a really good job. Amano shrimp do a really good job. But bear in mind that they can only do so much, right? If you stick 5 Amano shrimp in a 55-gallon tank that's infested with algae, they're probably never going to make a dent in it. For a shrimp to completely clean a tank, you're going to need a lot of shrimp. But snails are always a good option. Nerite snails do good, mystery snails do good. Just be aware if you get nerite snails that they do tend to leave eggs. It's just white globules of eggs all over the tank. They won't hatch because they can only hatch in brackish water. But that's going to be a thing, so if you're going to get nerite snails, just be aware of that. Mystery snails will breed in fresh water. I do have bladder snails or pond snails or pest snails. They've been getting fed to our puffer, which my wife has nicknamed Solomon, maybe. She picks weird names for the fish. She named my male jaguar cichlid Bob. But those are some things that you can do to kind of combat it. You're never going to get rid of algae in an aquarium. It's just a matter of water and light. It's always going to be a thing. So just, keep your lighting to a minimum. If you have a planted tank, make sure you pay attention. So if you're getting a lot of algae but you leave your lights on 10 hours a day, try 8 hours. If it's still too much, try 6. You may want to try liquid fertilizer like Easy Green instead of leaving the lights on all day to help supplement the nutrients to the plants, because all of these types of algae photosynthesize the light, and that's how they reproduce, and that's how you get more. Get the cleanup crew going, get your snails, your shrimp, your autosynclus cats, your plecos, stuff like that, and you should be okay. You're still going to have to scrape the glass from time to time. I still do. I don't have plecos yet, but I do intend to start breeding bristlenose plecos. For the bigger tanks, I'll probably get some kind of like really cool looking plecos. I've been doing some research into plecos. I'd like to get into breeding them. So I'm going to kind of figure out what goes where, what'll work with what, and we'll go from there. But that's it for today, guys. I just kind of wanted to go over that. It's a common problem for aquarists to face. So if this video helped you out, make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see my future content. I will be building a fish room here in the near future. As soon as I can close on this house, it is taking forever. But the virus has slowed everything down, so there's nothing we can do about it. But thanks for watching, guys. As always, have a great day, and I will see you next time.